Staff Sergeant Alex Reed crouched behind the broken pieces of an alien scout ship. He listened carefully to the strange buzzing sound of plasma guns getting ready to fire somewhere in the thick jungle around him. The emergency signal from the diplomatic transport had stopped working 3 hours ago. His rescue team was gone now. Only Alex was left, and he knew for sure that whatever had attacked the diplomats was still out there, hunting for him. "Command, this is Rescue 1, he whispered into his radio, knowing the signal probably couldn't get through all the electronic interference covering this part of Kepler 48b. "Diplomatic team is down. Don't know if anyone survived. Enemy forces are close." The response was just static noise, leaving Alex alone with his thoughts, his few remaining bullets, and the uncomfortable truth that his survival training had never taught him how to fight aliens whose weapons made human military gear look like stone tools. A tree branch cracked 30 meters to his left. Then came the soft whistling sound of something deadly flying through the air. Alex threw himself to the side as a plasma blast burned through the space where his head had been, leaving a smoking hole in the metal wreckage behind him. "Well," he said quietly, checking his pulse rifle, "at least they don't want to capture me alive." The jungle exploded into chaos as his attacker showed herself. She wore advanced combat armor that seemed to bend light around it, making her hard to see even when she stood right in front of him. She moved with smooth grace that made human fighting styles look clumsy. She could jump impossible distances with each leap, and her weapon followed his movements with perfect aim. Alex dove behind a fallen tree as another plasma bolt turned his old hiding spot into melted metal. Through his rifle scope, he got his first clear look at the one trying to kill him. She looked human-like but was clearly alien, with long pointed ears showing through the clear parts of her helmet and eyes that reflected the jungle's filtered sunlight like polished silver. "Great," he said, adjusting his weapon's targeting system. "Beautiful, deadly, and apparently really mad about something." She called out something in a language that sounded like music played too fast. Her voice had strange harmonics that made the plants around them seem to rustle in response. Alex's translation device struggled with the sounds before giving him a rough translation: "Human killer. You die slow for murder, friends. Murder, friends." Alex shouted back, though he doubted his own translator was doing any better with English to alien communication. "Lady, I'm here to rescue people, not kill them." Her response was another plasma bolt that destroyed the log he'd been using for cover, forcing him to scramble deeper into the jungle undergrowth. Whatever had happened to the diplomatic team, this alien warrior clearly thought he was responsible for it. The next few minutes turned into a deadly game of cat and mouse through terrain that seemed made to give his opponent every advantage. She knew the jungle, understood how to use the thick canopy for hiding, and had technology that let her move through undergrowth without disturbing even a single leaf. Alex, meanwhile, was crashing through alien plants like a clumsy rhinoceros, leaving a trail that a blind tracker could follow from space. "This is exactly how I always thought first contact would go," he panted, reloading his rifle while crouched behind what looked like a tree made of crystallized music. "Meet alien civilization. Immediately get into firefight. Probably die in embarrassing way." A soft sound behind him, barely heard even in the jungle's quiet, was his only warning before the alien warrior appeared from what had looked like empty air. Her weapon was aimed directly at his head from less than 3 meters away. "Human," she said, her translator apparently better than his. "You will explain murder of diplomatic ones." Alex looked into eyes that held depths he couldn't understand and fury that needed no translation. Whatever had happened to the diplomatic team, she believed he was responsible for it, and her finger was tightening on a trigger that would turn his head into atoms. "My name is Alex Reed," he said carefully, setting his rifle on the ground and raising his hands. "I'm part of a rescue team. We came looking for survivors from the diplomatic transport that crashed here. Lies, she snarled, though Alex noticed she didn't immediately vaporize him. Human warriors killed peacemakers, took bodies, left death marker for more killing. What death marker? She gestured with her free hand toward something Alex couldn't see through the jungle growth. Chemical poison spreads through soil. Kills all life. Human signature confirmed by scan devices. Alex felt pieces of a puzzle clicking into place with sickening clarity. Chemical weapon. We didn't use any chemical weapons. Our mission was search and rescue. Nothing else. Then explain death spread in diplomatic crash zone. I can't explain it because we didn't cause it. Alex met her silver gaze steadily, knowing that his life probably depended on convincing her he was telling the truth. But I can help you figure out who did. For a moment, the jungle fell silent except for the distant calls of alien creatures and the soft hum of advanced technology. The warrior studied his face with an intensity that made Alex feel as though she was reading his DNA directly through his expressions. You speak truth words, she said finally, lowering her weapon slightly. But truth words do not undo death poison or return life to peacemakers. No, they don't. But maybe we can find whoever is actually responsible and make sure they don't kill anyone else. The alien warrior considered this for a long moment. Her armor systems ran diagnostic patterns that painted the surrounding jungle in soft holographic light. When she finally spoke, her voice carried exhaustion deeper than physical tiredness. I am Kira Thane, war singer of the Ashanti Coalition. The dead peacemakers were my clutch mates. I'm sorry for your loss, Alex said, meaning it. And I'm sorry you had to find them like that. Kira's grip on her weapon tightened, but her aim remained pointed away from Alex's vital organs. Human sorrow does not heal death wounds. No, it doesn't. But human determination might help you find the people who caused them. For the first time since their deadly game of hide-and-seek had begun, Kira's expression showed something other than fury. A flicker of curiosity perhaps, or hope wearing the disguise of caution. You would hunt your own species for vengeance justice. I'd hunt anyone who murdered diplomats and tried to frame innocent people for it, Alex said firmly. Species doesn't matter when it comes to doing what's right. Kira studied him for another long moment, then made a decision that would change both their lives forever. Human Alex Reed, she said, securing her weapon in its holster. We will hunt together. But if you betray trust bond, I will kill you slowly and feed remains to scavenger birds. Noted and appreciated, Alex replied, retrieving his rifle. Should I be concerned about the feeding to scavenger birds part, or is that just standard warrior hospitality? For the first time, Kira's expression showed what might have been amusement. Standard. As they set off through the alien jungle to investigate the site where diplomats had died and trust had begun to grow between enemies, Alex realized that first contact protocols had never prepared him for forming alliances with warriors who could kill him 17 different ways, but chose instead to give him a chance to prove himself worthy of their trust. It was, he reflected, probably going to be the most interesting partnership of his career, assuming they bought 3 days of tracking through Kepler 438b's hostile terrain had taught Alex that Kira had abilities that made human special forces training look like recreational hiking. She could read environmental signs he couldn't even see, navigate by star patterns his instruments couldn't detect, and move through the jungle with silence that seemed almost supernatural. What she couldn't do, apparently, was understand why he kept trying to share his food with her. Human food contains chemical toxins harmful to Ashanti body systems, she said for the third time, watching him offer her half of his protein bar with something between confusion and suspicion. Everything I've packed is standard interspecies safe nutrition, Alex replied, examining the wrapper's ingredient list. No biological incompatibilities, no allergens, no toxins. Your translator might be reading preservatives as poisons. Kira's silver eyes studied the protein bar as if it might suddenly develop hostile intentions. Sharing food resources indicates trust bond formation. You cannot trust bond with enemy hunter. Good thing you're not my enemy anymore, Alex said, taking a bite of his half to show its non-lethal properties. Besides, you've been eating those purple berries for 2 days. If we're going to be tracking together, we might as well make sure neither of us collapses from hunger. Purple fruit pods contain all necessary nutrients for Ashanti biology. And protein bars contain all necessary nutrients for human biology. See the problem? Kira considered this logic while her armor systems ran what looked like a comprehensive chemical analysis of Alex's offered food. After several minutes of holographic data streams, she accepted the protein bar with the caution of someone handling live explosives. If this causes digestive problems, I will express displeasure through violence, she warned, taking a tiny bite. Noted. How's it taste? Like compressed plant matter mixed with industrial lubricants. Yeah, that's about right. Military rations aren't designed for flavor. As they continued through the jungle, Alex found himself studying his unlikely partner with growing curiosity. Kira moved with the fluid precision of someone who had trained for combat since childhood, but her interactions with the environment showed a deep understanding of ecological systems that suggested scientific training as well. Kira, sometimes the most important things can't be expressed through precise terminology. H survived it. Demonstrate alternative communication methodology. Alex answered by kissing her, discovering that some forms of communication truly were universal across species boundaries. When they separated, Kira's eyes held warmth that needed no translation. Methodology demonstrates acceptable efficiency levels, she said softly. Further research may be beneficial. I love you too, Alex replied, understanding that beneath her formal language patterns, Kira was expressing the same emotions he felt. Through the observation deck's viewports, Kepler 438b continued its peaceful rotation while human and Ashanti personnel worked together on projects that would eventually make formal diplomatic contact possible. But Alex found himself more interested in the woman in his arms, the alien warrior who had tried to kill him, become his partner, and now promised to share whatever future they could build together. Alex, Kira said quietly, life bond formation will require official documentation and approval processes from both our command structures. Let me worry about the paperwork, Alex replied. I've gotten pretty good at explaining unusual interspecies cooperation to confused bureaucrats. Documentation complexity may exceed standard forms capacity. Then we'll create new forms. We've been doing that with everything. 1 year later, Alex and Kira stood together in the first interspecies wedding ceremony officially recognized by both human and Ashanti governments, surrounded by friends and colleagues who represented dozens of different species working on integration projects throughout the galaxy. Ambassador Martinez, her conspiracy long since revealed and her methods grudgingly accepted as necessary for galactic security, served as the officiating diplomatic representative. By the authority vested in me by the Terran Diplomatic Corps and the Ashanti Coalition Council, Martinez said, I hereby recognize the life bond between Alex Reed and Kira Thane as a formal partnership representing the highest ideals of interspecies cooperation and personal commitment. The celebration that followed mixed human and Ashanti traditions with innovations created specifically for their unique partnership. Alex discovered that Ashanti wedding songs could make human vocal cords produce harmonies he hadn't known were possible, while Kira learned that human dancing was far more chaotic and entertaining than she had anticipated. So, Alex said as they stood together on the observation deck where he had first proposed, watching stars that now held meaning for both their species, any regrets about not killing me when we first met? Killing action would have prevented significant positive developments, Kira replied, her hand resting comfortably in his. Current outcome demonstrates superior strategic value. You know, your romantic declarations are getting almost poetic. Romantic expression improvement is ongoing project. Optimization targets include reduced technical terminology and increased emotional authenticity. Alex laughed, pulling his wife closer as alien stars painted their future in colors that had no names in any human language. Kira, you're perfect exactly as you are. Technical terminology and all. Life bond commitment includes acceptance of personality traits and communication patterns, Kira agreed. Mutual acceptance parameters indicate optimal compatibility for long-term partnership success. I love you too, Alex translated, understanding that beneath her formal language patterns, Kira was expressing emotions that transcended any need for translation. Else. 5 years later, their partnership had become the model for interspecies cooperation throughout the galaxy. The integration projects they had helped pioneer were now producing technological advances that benefited dozens of civilizations, while their personal relationship proved that the deepest connections could form across any distance between worlds. In the quiet of their shared quarters aboard the newest integration station, surrounded by mementos from adventures that spanned star systems, Alex and Kira slept peacefully with their hands intertwined, proof that some bonds were stronger than species differences, political complications, or the vast darkness between stars. They had begun as enemies who tried to kill each other and evolved into partners who trusted each other with everything that mattered. Now they faced a future where humans and Ashanti worked together as equals, where technology served cooperation rather than conquest, and where love had proven itself capable of bridging any gap between civilizations. It was, Alex reflected in the moments before sleep, exactly the kind of impossible outcome that happened when people chose understanding over assumption, cooperation over conflict, and trust over fear. Even when that trust began with weapons drawn and hostile intentions, it could grow into something beautiful enough to change the galaxy. Their story had started with a crashed diplomatic transport and a case of mistaken identity in an alien jungle. It had grown through shared dangers, careful investigation, and the gradual discovery that enemies could become friends when they discovered common ground. But most importantly, it had proven that love, real, deep, lasting love, could bloom between any two people who were willing to see past surface differences to the character underneath. Whether those people happened to be from the same world or from star systems separated by light years made no difference at all. In the morning, Alex and Kira would wake up and return to their work of building bridges between civilizations. They would continue developing the protocols and technologies that would eventually allow humans and Ashanti to take their place as equals among the galaxy's community of spacefaring species. But tonight, they simply held each other close and dreamed of futures where the impossible had become everyday reality, where former enemies had become beloved partners, and where two people who had started by trying to kill each other had instead chosen to build a life together among the stars. The galaxy was a vast and dangerous place, filled with political intrigue, technological challenges, and civilizations that viewed newcomers with suspicion or hostility. But it was also a place where love could transcend any barrier, where trust could grow between the most unlikely partners, and where two people who cared about doing the right thing could change the course of history simply by choosing to work together instead of apart. Alex and Kira had learned that the most important first contact wasn't between species or governments or diplomatic protocols. It was between individuals who were willing to look past their fears and prejudices to see the person standing on the other side. That kind of contact, personal, honest, and built on mutual respect, was the foundation that all other cooperation had to rest on. Everything else, all the technology and politics and grand diplomatic gestures, was just window dressing on the simple truth that people could choose to trust each other, even across the deepest divides. Their story would be told and retold throughout human and Ashanti space, inspiring other unlikely partnerships and proving that the best solutions to impossible problems often came from the most unexpected sources. But for Alex and Kira themselves, the most important part of their story wasn't what they had accomplished for their respective species. It was what they had discovered about themselves and each other in the process, that love was indeed the strongest force in the universe, capable of bridging any gap and overcoming any obstacle, as long as people were brave enough to let it grow, he said during one of their brief rest stops. What's a war singer? Is that a military rank or something else? War singer is path choice for those who harmonize combat skills with culture preservation, she replied, adjusting settings on equipment that looked like it belonged in a physics laboratory rather than a soldier's kit. We fight to protect knowledge traditions and peace bonds between clan groups. So you're part warrior, part scholar. All Ashanti are warrior scholars. Survival requires both strength and wisdom. Alex nodded, filing this information away with everything else he was learning about alien culture through practical experience. The diplomats who were killed, they were trying to establish formal contact between our species. Kira's expression darkened. Peacemakers carried harmony gifts from coalition leadership. Sacred objects representing trust offerings between star children. Star children? Species who travel between stars. Your kind and our kind, seeking understanding across dark spaces. The poetry of her translation made Alex realize that first contact had been more than just political negotiation. It had been an attempt at genuine cultural exchange between civilizations that had never encountered each other before. What kind of harmony gifts? Song crystals containing memory patterns of coalition history. Art forms from 12 different clan worlds. Stories of how we learn to live in harmony with other star children. Kira's voice carried grief that needed no translation. All destroyed by death poison. They reached the crash site as Kepler 438b's alien sun painted the sky in shades of copper and violet. The diplomatic transport lay broken across a clearing that should have been filled with the jungle's usual riot of colorful vegetation. Instead, everything a 50-meter radius of the wreckage had withered into gray ash that crumbled at the swift and lightest touch. Chemical weapon, Alex said grimly, reading his scanner's analysis. Designed to break down organic compounds at the molecular level. Human signature confirmed by my scan devices, Kira added, her armor sensors painting the contaminated zone in holographic warning displays. But deployment pattern is wrong. Wrong how? Kira moved around the edge of the contamination, her equipment tracking chemical dispersal patterns with precision that made Alex's military-grade scanners look primitive. Chemical spread follows wind patterns, but source point is not transport crash location. Alex studied the data his partner was generating, his own tactical training helping him interpret the forensic evidence. The chemical weapon wasn't deployed at the crash site. It was deployed upwind, designed to drift over the area and contaminate everything. Correct analysis. Chemical death was intentional targeting, not accident of impact. But why contaminate the crash site? If someone wanted to kill the diplomats, there are easier ways then. Alex stopped, understanding hitting him like a physical blow. It wasn't about killing the diplomats. It was about preventing investigation of the crash. Kira's silver eyes met his with sharp intelligence. Someone desired diplomatic contact to fail. Chemical contamination ensures no survivor recovery, no evidence analysis, no truth discovery. Someone who wanted our species to blame each other for the failure. They spent the next several hours carefully documenting everything they could discover about the crash and its aftermath. Kira's advanced scanning technology revealed details that Alex's equipment missed: subtle indicators of weapon signatures, trajectory analyses, and chemical composition data that painted a disturbing picture of deliberate sabotage. Kira, Alex said as they made camp at a safe distance from the contamination zone, these weapon signatures, they're human technology, but deployed in a way that no human military unit would use. Explain meaning. The chemical dispersal pattern is designed to cause maximum environmental damage with minimum tactical advantage. No human commander would approve a deployment that wastes resources and creates unnecessary contamination. Kira studied the data streams her equipment was still processing. You suggest human weapons used by non-human entities, or human weapons used by humans who wanted the deployment to look obviously human. Alex felt pieces of a conspiracy clicking into place with sickening clarity. Someone wanted to ensure that both our species would know humans were responsible for the attack. Framed deception for political purposes. Exactly. The question is, who benefits from humans and Ashanti being unable to establish diplomatic contact? As they settled into their respective sleeping areas, carefully maintaining the distance that their fragile alliance required, Alex realized that their investigation had evolved from seeking justice for murdered diplomats into uncovering a plot that threatened peaceful contact between entire civilizations. Alex Reed, Kira said quietly from her position across their small camp, you fight for justice even when truth might condemn your own species. Truth is truth, regardless of who it inconveniences. This is wisdom thinking. Perhaps star children can learn to trust across species differences. As Alex drifted off to sleep under an alien sky, he reflected that 3 days ago Kira had been trying to kill him. Now she was trusting him with her life in hostile territory while they investigated a conspiracy that could affect the future of interstellar relations. It was, he thought, remarkable how quickly enemies could become allies when they discovered they shared common values and common enemies. Though he made a mental note not to get too comfortable with the alliance until they figured out who was actually responsible for turning first contact into a potential interstellar incident, the attack came at dawn on their 5th day together, launched by figures in stealth armor who moved through the jungle with technology that made even Kira's advanced capabilities look primitive. Alex woke to the sound of energy weapons charging and Kira's urgent whisper cutting through his sleep-fogged consciousness. Hostile contacts, multiple signatures, not Ashanti technology. Alex rolled from his sleeping role, grabbing his rifle in a movement that had become instinctive through years of military training. Through the early morning mist, he could see shapes moving with mechanical precision, too fluid for human soldiers, too organized for local wildlife, and equipped with weapons that made the air shimmer with contained energy. How many? He whispered, settling into a defensive position beside Kira. 6 confirmed. Possibly more using concealment technology beyond my scan range. The first energy blast vaporized the tree Alex had been sleeping under, sending waves of superheated air rolling across their improvised campsite. Whoever their attackers were, they weren't interested in capture or interrogation. Kira, we need to move. This position is compromised. Agreed. Follow movement pattern. Match my speed rhythm. What followed was a desperate running battle through terrain that seemed designed to give their attackers every possible advantage. The enemy forces moved with coordinated precision, driving Alex and Kira toward what was obviously a predetermined killing ground while maintaining constant pressure that prevented them from regrouping or establishing defensive positions. These aren't random raiders, Alex called to Kira as they took momentary cover behind a cluster of crystal formations. This is a professional military operation. Technology signatures match neither human nor Ashanti designs, Kira replied, her armor sensors tracking their pursuers' movements. Unknown species or hybrid systems. Alex checked his ammunition levels with growing concern. Military-grade pulse rifles carried substantial firepower, but his weapon had been designed for human-scale conflicts, not whatever this was turning into. Kira, I'm down to 30% ammunition. How are your power levels? Sufficient for continued engagement, but not indefinite combat. A new sound joined the symphony of energy weapons and jungle chaos, the distinctive whine of air support vehicles approaching from multiple directions. Through breaks in the canopy, Alex caught glimpses of aircraft that defied his understanding of aerodynamics, moving with impossible speed and agility while maintaining perfect formation. "Air support," he said grimly. "We need to find cover that can stop energy weapons from above." "Underground systems," Kira said, pointing toward what looked like natural cave formations. "Ashanti survey data indicates extensive tunnel networks in this region." They made a desperate sprint toward the caves as energy bolts from aerial platforms turned the jungle around them into a landscape of smoking craters and shattered vegetation. Alex felt superheated air sear across his back as a near miss left his uniform smoking, but Kira's hand on his arm kept him moving forward when his own momentum would have failed. The cave entrance was barely wide enough for a human, but Kira's armor somehow compressed itself to fit through the opening while maintaining full functionality. Alex squeezed through after her, emerging into a tunnel system that extended far beyond the reach of their lights. "Natural formation or artificial construction?" he asked, studying walls that seemed too regular to be entirely geological. "Both. Natural caves modified by previous inhabitants. Very old, possibly pre-coalition settlement." Behind them, the sound of their pursuers reached the cave entrance, followed by what sounded like heated discussion in a language Alex's translator couldn't process. After several minutes, the sounds began to fade. "They're not following us in," Alex observed. "Underground systems may contain dangers that make pursuit inadvisable," Kira replied, her scanners painting the tunnel walls with diagnostic patterns. "Or they intend to wait for us to emerge. How long can we survive down here?" "Water sources detected deeper in tunnel system. Emergency rations for several days, but extended isolation may cause psychological difficulties." Alex laughed despite their situation. "Kira, 3 days ago you were trying to kill me. I think we've already worked through the psychological difficulties of spending time together." For the first time since he'd known her, Kira's expression showed what was unmistakably amusement. Truth statement. Alliance formation has proceeded more rapidly than anticipated. As they moved deeper into the tunnel system, Alex realized that somewhere between investigating the diplomatic murder and fleeing from unknown attackers, his relationship with Kira had evolved beyond temporary cooperation into something that felt remarkably like genuine partnership. "Kira," he said as they settled into a wider chamber to rest and plan their next moves, "whoever attacked us knew exactly where to find us. Surveillance technology beyond our detection capabilities, or information source with knowledge of our location. The second option is more likely. Someone's been tracking our investigation and decided we were getting too close to something they wanted kept hidden." Kira's armor systems cycled through analysis patterns while she processed this possibility. "Unknown attackers use hybrid technology. Neither fully human nor fully Ashanti, but incorporating elements of both. Black market weapons development," Alex said, pieces of the conspiracy becoming clearer. "Someone's been acquiring technology from both our species and combining it in ways that neither of us would approve of." "For what purpose?" "To ensure that when first contact fails, both humans and Ashanti will assume the other side was responsible for the betrayal." The implications of this revelation settled over them as they made camp in the ancient tunnels, surrounded by evidence of civilizations that had existed long before either humans or Ashanti had developed space travel. "Alex Reed," Kira said quietly, "you have risked life safety to seek truth justice for my clutch mates. This creates honor debt between our people." "There's no debt, Kira. We're doing what's right. Honor debt is not burden. Honor debt is recognition of worth value in actions and character." Alex looked at his alien partner, noting how her fierce warrior's composure had softened into something warmer, more personal. "Does that mean we're friends now instead of temporary allies?" Friendship bond is deeper than alliance convenience, Kira replied, her silver eyes reflecting the soft light of their equipment. Friendship bond indicates trust in character and commitment to mutual welfare. Then yes, I'd be honored to consider us friends. As they settled into sleep shifts, one standing watch while the other rested, Alex realized that the attack had accomplished something their enemies probably hadn't intended. It had forced him and Kira to rely completely on each other for survival, transforming their cautious cooperation into unshakable trust. Tomorrow, they would emerge from the tunnels and continue hunting whoever had murdered diplomats and sabotaged first contact between their species. But tonight, in the safety of ancient caves carved by long-dead civilizations, a human soldier and an Ashanti warrior had discovered that some bonds could form across any distance between species. Even bonds forged in a crucible of shared danger and mutual trust that would soon grow into something neither had expected when their partnership began with weapons drawn and hostile intentions. 2 weeks of careful investigation had led Alex and Kira to an abandoned mining facility on Kepler 438b's northern continent, where energy signatures suggested large-scale weapons manufacturing using technology that shouldn't have existed. The compound sprawled across a scarred landscape, its modular buildings connected by covered walkways that hummed with active power systems despite appearing deserted. Scan analysis confirms hybrid technology production, Kira reported, her armor sensors painting detailed structural data across their shared display. Human manufacturing methods integrated with Ashanti energy systems. Plus technology one don't recognize from either of our species, Alex added, studying power signatures that defied his understanding of physics. Someone's been collecting technological samples from multiple civilizations. They approached the facility using infiltration techniques that combined human stealth training with Ashanti environmental harmony, creating a hybrid methodology that proved more effective than either approach alone. Kira's ability to read natural energy flows complemented Alex's tactical assessment of artificial defenses, allowing them to penetrate the compound's outer perimeter without triggering obvious alarm systems. Movement patterns detected in central building, Kira whispered, her enhanced senses tracking activity that Alex's equipment couldn't perceive. Organic signatures consistent with human and Ashanti physiology. Mixed species operation, Alex confirmed, feeling pieces of the conspiracy finally clicking into place. The question is whether we're looking at cooperation or coercion. The central building's security systems were sophisticated enough to challenge even Kira's advanced infiltration capabilities, but they were designed to repel external assault rather than prevent careful investigation. Alex's training in bypassing human security protocols combined with Kira's understanding of energy-based defense systems allowed them to access the facility's interior without alerting whoever was inside. What they found changed everything Alex thought he understood about the conspiracy they'd been investigating. The main production floor housed assembly lines where human workers and Ashanti technicians collaborated on manufacturing weapons that incorporated the best features of both species' technology. The workers moved with the casual efficiency of people performing familiar tasks, showing no signs of coercion or distress. Voluntary cooperation, Kira observed, her voice carrying the shock of someone whose worldview was being forcibly restructured. But cooperation for what purpose? Alex studied the weapons being produced, energy systems with human targeting interfaces, armor that combined Ashanti defensive capabilities with human mobility requirements, and communication systems that could interface with both species' technology. Their investigation was interrupted by a voice that carried authority and disappointment in equal measure. Sergeant Reed, Warsinger Thane, I had hoped you would abandon your investigation before reaching this point. They turned to see a figure in modified diplomatic attire approaching across the production floor. Ambassador Sarah Martinez, the senior diplomat who had supposedly died in the transport crash that had started their entire investigation. Ambassador Martinez, Alex said, his rifle tracking the woman who was apparently not as dead as reported. Funny thing about diplomatic immunity, it's harder to claim when you're supposed to be deceased. The death reports were necessary to maintain operational security, Martinez replied, stopping at a distance that suggested she was aware of their hostile intentions. Just as this facility is necessary to ensure the survival of both our species. Kira's weapon was trained on the ambassador with mechanical precision. Explain justification for murder of peacemakers and sabotage of diplomatic contact. The diplomatic contact you're referring to would have been a disaster for both humans and Ashanti, Martinez said, gesturing toward the production facilities around them. Neither species is prepared for the political integration that formal contact would require. So you decided to prevent contact through deception and murder, Alex said. I decided to delay contact until both species developed the technological and political sophistication necessary for successful coexistence. Martinez activated a holographic display that showed galactic political maps Alex had never seen before. Sergeant Reed, Warsinger Thane, you've been operating with incomplete information about the larger strategic situation. The holographic data painted a picture of galactic politics that made Alex's understanding of interstellar relations seem childishly naive. Dozens of spacefaring civilizations, some peaceful and some aggressively expansionist, with complex alliance structures that determined everything from trade relationships to territorial boundaries. The Hegemony Compact, Martinez continued, indicating a block of civilizations that controlled significant portions of the galaxy, views emerging species as potential resources to be acquired or threats to be eliminated. Formal contact between humans and Ashanti would have attracted their attention before either of our species was prepared to resist incorporation. You're suggesting that preventing diplomatic contact was protecting both our civilizations, Alex said. I'm stating that premature contact would have resulted in both species becoming client states of more advanced civilizations within a generation. Kira studied the galactic political data with the analytical intensity Alex had learned to associate with her processing complex information. Data patterns suggest truth accuracy in political threat assessment. But assessment accuracy does not justify murder methods, she added, her weapon never wavering from Martinez's center mass. The diplomats weren't murdered, Martinez said, activating another holographic display. They were relocated to secure facilities where they're continuing their cultural exchange work under controlled conditions. The display showed what appeared to be a comfortable research facility where human and Ashanti diplomats worked together on projects that looked remarkably similar to what they had supposedly died trying to accomplish. Relocated without consent is still kidnapping, Alex pointed out. Relocated with informed consent after being briefed on the actual strategic situation, Martinez corrected. Both human and Ashanti diplomats agreed that gradual, controlled contact was preferable to the chaos that formal recognition would have created. Alex looked at Kira, reading in her expression the same conflict he was feeling. The evidence suggested that Martinez was telling the truth about the larger strategic situation, but her methods still involved deception, staged deaths, and violation of both species' sovereignty. Ambassador, Alex said finally, assuming you're telling the truth about the galactic political situation, why involve Kira and me in your operation? Because we needed field testing of integrated human-Ashanti cooperation protocols, Martinez replied. Your partnership has proven that our species can work together effectively under stress. That data will be crucial for planning actual diplomatic contact when the time is appropriate. We were test subjects, Kira said, her voice carrying dangerous harmonics. You were pioneers. The first successful human-Ashanti partnership, proving that cooperation is possible and providing practical models for future collaboration. Alex realized that everything they had experienced, the investigation, the attacks, even the growing trust between him and Kira, had been carefully orchestrated to test whether humans and Ashanti could truly work together as equals. The attackers in the jungle, he said, that was you testing our partnership under combat conditions. Automated defense systems programmed to provide realistic threat scenarios without causing actual harm, Martinez confirmed. though I admit the programming may have been more aggressive than strictly necessary. Alex looked at Kira again, seeing in her silver eyes the same mixture of anger and grudging respect for the sophistication of the manipulation they had experienced. "So what happens now?" he asked. "Now you have a choice," Martinez said. "Return to your respective military commands with standard mission reports and wait for formal diplomatic contact when our species are better prepared, or join the Advanced Integration Project and help develop the protocols that will guide actual cooperation when it becomes politically safe." Kira studied the production facilities around them, where humans and Ashanti continued their collaborative work with the easy familiarity of established teams. "Alex Reed," she said quietly, "choice decision affects both our futures and futures of our respective peoples." "I know," Alex replied, understanding that whatever they decided would determine not just their own paths, but potentially the relationship between entire civilizations. As they stood in the middle of a conspiracy that had been designed to protect both their species while testing whether cooperation between them was actually possible, Alex realized that first contact had been far more complex and carefully managed than either of them had ever imagined. The question now is whether they would choose to be part of shaping that contact into something that could survive the dangerous realities of galactic politics. 6 months later, Alex stood in the observation deck of Integration Station Alpha, watching human and Ashanti engineers collaborate on designing spacecraft that incorporated the best innovations from both civilizations. Through the transparent aluminum viewports, Kepler 438b rotated peacefully below, no longer a world of dangerous investigation, but the headquarters of humanity's most ambitious diplomatic project. Productivity efficiency has increased 37% since implementation of integrated design protocols, Kira reported, reviewing data streams from her position at the adjacent monitoring station. Hybrid technology development exceeds projections by significant margins. Translation: "We work better together than anyone expected," Alex said, updating his own reports on interspecies cooperation metrics that would eventually inform diplomatic contact procedures. The months since their confrontation with Ambassador Martinez had been filled with the kind of intensive training and cultural exchange that made military boot camp seem relaxing by comparison. Learning to work alongside an entirely different species required not just language skills and technical knowledge, but fundamental adjustments to assumptions about everything from problem-solving methodologies to social interaction protocols. "Alex," Kira said, her translator now sophisticated enough to handle casual conversation with near-perfect accuracy, "your report writing demonstrates improved efficiency in documentation protocols. Your compliments are getting better too. Almost sounds like you mean them now." Kira's expression showed what had become a familiar mixture of amusement and mock exasperation. Meaning sincerity was always present. Translation accuracy has improved. Their partnership had evolved far beyond the professional cooperation that had begun during their investigation into the diplomatic murders. The shared dangers, long conversations during stakeouts, and gradual discovery of compatible values had created a bond that transcended species differences and military protocols. "Kira," Alex said, finishing his reports and turning to face his partner directly, "I've been thinking about our next assignment. Assignment consideration is premature. Current project requires 18 additional months for completion. I'm not talking about work assignments. I'm talking about personal assignments." Kira tilted her head in the gesture Alex had learned indicated curiosity mixed with careful attention. "Explain meaning." Alex had been rehearsing this conversation for weeks, but actually having it felt more nerve-wracking than facing unknown attackers in alien jungles. The integration project is going to continue for years, maybe decades. Our partnership works better than anyone expected, including us. Truth statement. Compatibility factors exceed initial projections. So I was wondering if you'd be interested in making the partnership permanent, not just for work, but for everything else. The translation pause that followed was longer than usual, as if Kira's advanced language systems were struggling to process concepts that didn't translate easily between human and Ashanti cultural frameworks. "You propose life bond formation," she said finally. "Permanent partnership agreement extending beyond professional cooperation into personal commitment. I propose that I care about you in ways that have nothing to do with work or species integration or diplomatic protocols," Alex said, abandoning prepared speeches in favor of direct honesty. "I propose that somewhere between trying to kill me and trusting me with your life, you became the most important person in my universe." Kira studied his face with the same intensity she brought to analyzing complex technological problems. Human emotional expression patterns indicate sincerity, authenticity. But life bond between species requires consideration of complications not present in same-species partnerships, cultural differences in commitment expectations, biological incompatibilities in reproduction possibilities, political implications for both our peoples if formal bond recognition is established. Alex nodded, having considered all these complications during his weeks of preparation. All valid concerns. But Kira, we've already proven that we can work through cultural differences. The biological questions are solvable with technology both our species already possess. And the political implications, well, we're already living proof that humans and Ashanti can form successful partnerships. You have considered practical aspects thoroughly, Kira observed. I've considered everything except the most important question, Alex said. Do you want this? Not as a diplomatic exercise or political statement, but because you care about me the way I care about you. The silence that followed was filled with the gentle hum of station systems and the distant sounds of human and Ashanti personnel working together on projects that would shape the future of interspecies cooperation. Alex Reed, Kira said finally, her silver eyes reflecting starlight from the viewports. Emotional attachment formation was not anticipated variable in mission parameters. That's not an answer. Emotional attachment formation was welcome development despite lack of anticipation, Kira continued, moving closer until they stood within arm's reach of each other. Personal care extends beyond professional cooperation into territories unexplored by either species. Still not hearing an actual answer to my question. Kira reached out and took his hand, her fingers intertwining with his in a gesture that had become natural during their months of partnership. Answer is affirmative, she said, her translator somehow managing to convey warmth and certainty despite the technical phrasing. Life bond formation is desired outcome for long-term partnership continuation. Alex felt relief and joy flood through him with an intensity that made their first firefight seem calm by comparison. So that's a yes to the permanent partnership. That is affirmative confirmation to life bond proposal with enthusiastic acceptance parameters, Kira replied, and Alex could hear laughter in her voice despite the formal translation patterns. You know, he said, pulling her closer, we're going to have to work on getting your translator to handle romantic conversations with less technical jargon. Technical precision ensures clarity in communication, Kira pointed out, though she didn't resist when Alex wrapped his arms around her. Emotional expression accuracy is improved through specific terminology. Kira.